it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer experience that I'm going to share with you and see if you can identify and really explore and resonate with this experience. And that is really when you are in a relationship with a narcissist or furthermore a psychopath, an individual who presents with a personality disorder, namely with the typifying hallmarks of having excessive self-importance, an inflated ego, outwardly brash, or covertly so, where they're very inattentive, very withdrawn, very neglectful, and very I would say, counter-proactive or counterintuitive to a natural sort of connection with others in a covert narcissistic fashion. And so in other words, it can be outwardly self-important where they're, obviously downplaying you, bullying you, scapegoating you, but furthermore, there's a lack of empathy where they're not really connecting to, resonating with your feelings, your needs, your perspective, where you're coming from, where you're at. They just don't seem to pin the tail on the donkey. They just don't seem to get it. They just seem to be really off mark with you. And this is oftentimes because of a lack of empathy. And particularly so if a narcissist or a psychopath, an individual with a personality disorder, realize that the personality is made up with the thought patterns, the repeated thought patterns, the repeated feelings, the repeated emotions. And that really creates a neural network, which creates your personality, which is furthermore your identity. So, thoughts experienced over a period of time reflect your mood. Your mood over a period of time reflects your identity. So, one of the hallmarks, I would say, of a narcissist or a psychopath is really pronounced when you are relaying information of a personal nature to this individual, and you're expressing maybe displeasure with a person, a service, an opinion, or whatever, a political or religious comment or perspective, whatever you want to call it in the abstract. They're very wanton to habitually defend the other person. In other words, because of their habituated thought pattern, to scapegoat or make inferior or diminish others with whom they have kind of a closed off sort of relation to. In other words, if they are habitually targeting you, scapegoating you as a source of projection. So no matter what you do, say, or become, it's never good enough. They don't see it, they're not going to see it, they're not going to validate it. We call this negative validation. They're not able to connect with really who you are, how you feel, what your dreams are, what you're trying to relay or communicate. They're off. There's a disconnect. And you'll see this oftentimes when you're trying to relay factual information, factual or objective in nature. This was my experience. And they, rather than understanding you, getting you, having empathy or compassion, they're going to defend the other party. They're going to make excuses for the system that violated you. They're going to make excuses for the person who violated you. They're not going to be supportive, nurturing, empathetic, or have compassion. For example, a client recently relayed a story where she was in the doctor's office, and she was relaying, that she's receiving a diagnosis, and how this doctor, while they were, giving her a very incomplete exam, in other words, just very hurried, very rushed, and, some of the very basics, like this doctor, she was relaying to me, has a newborn. And so, this doctor has very limited hours, and as she was kind of moving some things around, she said, here you go, little boy. And so in other words, the doctor was sort of in her mind, still with her baby, while she was treating this patient. So the doctor was like not really present. And this individual relayed this experience to me and how it was sort of strange. But furthermore, when And she experienced other sort of disconnects in the healthcare system where she wasn't getting a call back. There was no information. Diagnostics were, not provided. In, the test, it was 4 days later. She still didn't have the results. The doctor couldn't call back. The doctor wasn't emailing. The receptionist wasn't picking up. So she, basically, was pushed off in this healthcare system where it had been 4 days and, she's experiencing pain, etc. She's not able to get information. The doctor wasn't available. And she relayed this to the narcissist, and they just made excuses for the healthcare system. Oh, they're under the gun. There was no empathy or connection to this individual. And so when she relayed this to me, I basically shed the light and said, this is because they're very wanting to habitually target those individuals. They're not able to have empathy. So you can present them with real, factual information, your feelings, your experience, your perspective, whatever it is you've gone through. They're not going to validate it. Even if it's something as serious and as real as a health issue, an actual factual experience that you've encountered through something like the healthcare system, they're not, even if it's that severe, that real in nature, that serious, they're still not going to have or present or communicate to you, connect with you within that sort of empathy way. They just have an empathy deficit. It has nothing to do with you, but realize that if this has been a source of suffering and pain and disconnect, realize that oftentimes it is because of a shortcoming within this individual, their personality, their thought patterns, how they reflect. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with the fact that you didn't experience this, the fact that you're not suffering, the fact that this did not actually happen. See, that's where the gaslighting takes place, is where they tell you, your feelings are not correct. Your experience is, you're making this up. You're overreacting. You shouldn't feel this way. A lot of the, negation of feelings, that are very real to you, you feel what you feel, you know what you know, you experience what you experience. So because of this lack of validation, oftentimes that's where the cognitive dissonance, that's where the self-doubt comes in, that's where the gaslighting. And this is how people, are really disengaged from their own internal activating system and really sort of able to follow their gut, their instinct, and, become empowered and become alive there and know what they know. So if you have experienced this, realize that oftentimes this disconnect has everything to do with a personality disordered individual. It has nothing to do with you. Just confirm in your heart, that you know what you know. You feel what you feel. You've experienced what you've experienced. And you need to take that and become empowered with it. And do not become habituated according to and reactive to the narcissist. Do not become reactive to and get into a battle, a fight, a try to prove your point sort of situation, or what we call a conflict consciousness with this individual. Cease the fighting. Cease trying to explain and justify yourself. Cease trying to make them see your point. It's, your perspective or validate it. They're just not ever going to do it. Even if it's a family member, even if it's someone, someone who's known you for years, or quote unquote, they should get you, they should support you, they should validate you. Realize that the shoulds are very much correct. They should, but unfortunately they are not. They are not capable. This is a shortcoming. This is a very specific kind of scenario and, nutcase, textbook, a perfect example of how a lack of empathy is displayed through a narcissistic or personality disordered individual. This is Peace and Harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.